welcome. Thanks for coming to my channel to talk about something as intimate as this topic is. So today I'm going to be talking about part 1, and I'm later going to make part 2. And I'm talking about why I got depressed when I was younger. I was late into 16 when I really could consider myself depressed. I was a person who had a lot of friends, but I had lost my mom at almost 13, and I was living with my sister. She wasn't home very often, and when she was, we'd fight all the time. It was on both sides with the fighting, but I also didn't feel like I was shown love in the way that I was used to. And no blame in that department. It is overall just a bad situation because of what had happened to the both of us. And she had taken me in when she didn't need to, but at the time, the fighting was definitely adding to the stress of everything I was going through. And I got in a relationship with this guy who I later found out had multiple personality disorder and schizophrenia. And I had no idea about this when I was in a relationship with him. And he convinced me he was psychic and said if I didn't do a certain thing, or if I did do something, like if I talked to a guy at my job, then my brother would die. And he knew that I felt close to my brother, so he knew that would hurt me, and that's why he said my brother. And I would literally ignore people because he said if I would talk to them, horrible things would happen. And he had percentages in his head on the chances of what would happen if I did certain things. So all these methods of controlling me. And he would stalk me when I was in a class, go by my math class, and he saw that I talked to a guy in my math class who was sitting in front of me, who I was probably just asking about an equation. And he would confront me afterwards and scream, calling me horrible names. You can use your imagination on that one. Loudly, so everyone around could hear. And he would put me down all the time, and he had an eating disorder himself and made himself throw up. So he projected that onto me, telling me that I was fat and I needed to make myself throw up, and made me not feel good enough. And I fell into an eating disorder, which made me go deeper into depression as well. And I was barely eating, and I found out that he had blocked all my close friends on my phone, and I thought that they were ignoring me and shutting me out and didn't want to be my friend anymore. And he pretty much closed me off to everyone so he could be the only person in my life. And later I found out, I looked at his phone because I had been suspicious that he was up to something, and I saw a texting app where he was texting me off of multiple different numbers acting as multiple different people. And I think that he may have actually thought that he was those people at the time. But he would text me as these people when he was right in front of me. And so you don't think that someone's going to do something like that you see every single day. So yeah, I was easily manipulated at that age. And I let someone tell me how I feel about myself, which I would never let happen again. And he would threaten that if I ever broke up with him, that he would kill himself. So I felt so stuck. He showed up at my house saying that he overdosed, and I had to stick my fingers down his throat, and he threw up this blue stuff. I don't know what it is. I don't know what he took. But he wasn't bluffing. He was serious about killing himself, and the last thing I wanted was to be the reason for someone's death. And so I felt so stuck. I constantly had to be texting him and going through all his little tests. He would test me all the time, texting his other people, trying to catch me slip up. I had zero freedom. I had no friends anymore when I was a person that had a lot of friends. And yeah, that's when I became suicidal, not only depressed, but I would make plans in my head to kill myself. And it was really bad. And I felt like I didn't really have anyone to go to about this. And I told his parents that he was suicidal and that they needed to watch him. And I broke up with him, and he had showed up at my house the next day when he would call me 30, 40 times. If I wouldn't answer, he would just nonstop just keep calling me. After I broke up, he did that, and I just had to block him. I remember I went to a friend's house, and he was freaking out, asking me if I was with a guy, if I was having sex with a guy, or something like that. And when I finally got out of that, I was so addicted to my phone because I had to constantly be on it. And I would lay in bed all the time and didn't do things for myself anymore. And that's the majority of why I was so depressed in high school. And I know this video is pretty gloomy, but please look at my part 2 to where I tell you on how I got out of depression. Because there's a world of a difference in how I love myself today. And how when I was a teenager, I didn't think that I was going to still be here at 24. And I'm so proud of myself for that. So you won't want to miss part 2. Especially if some of the things that I was feeling and the stuckness and the thoughts can resonate with any of you as well.